uncountable number of ways that broad levels of education will make life better for everyone. Some of the most important being less racism, less sexism, a better understanding of how the world works, and the ability to use that understanding to fight for what's right. Quality of life is important to me, and it should be important to you too. We shouldn't live in a world where people are trapped in bad circumstances because of luck, and good education will help remedy that. The importance of nurturing critical thinking skills through educational reform is huge, and I intend to highlight that today. What is critical thinking? It's a term that gets thrown around a lot. What does it actually mean? Many call themselves critical thinkers because they follow doctrines of mistrust, but that isn't what critical thought is. Critical thought is more than disbelief. It's the capacity to bring into question the veracity of a statement. And that capacity isn't something people are born with, it gets taught. And if school was formatted in a way that encouraged that development, we'd be living in a far more enlightened society. How can we know what the root of the problem is? Well, in Ontario, 48% of adults fall below the minimum requirements for literacy. That means nearly 7 million people can't read or write in a workplace setting. That number is so heinously high, we have to handle it harshly. Nowhere should be happy with their education system if it's churning out a 48% functional literacy rate. Reading and writing are used on such a common basis, they blend into the mundane parts of life. But what else does good education give us? One of the most undeniably horrific things in our world is discrimination based on uncontrollable factors. These factors include race, ethnicity, sex, sexuality, all things of that ilk. They don't change the character of a person, and yet they're used to discriminate against them nonetheless. Hate fuels the destruction of nations. Humans may be smart, but the mouse would never invent the mousetrap. There is a direct inverse correlation. As the level of education goes up, discrimination based on these uncontrollable factors plummets, which in turn creates a domino effect. As when quality of life goes up for one group, it goes up for all of us. School is where we spend a significant portion of our time. Everyone in this room has a huge chunk of their lives affected by school. Whether you be a student, teacher, guardian, anything in between, changes to the school system are changes to things that happen to you. And with the right ideas pushing those changes as far as they'll go, all our lives will improve. When I speak of enlightenment, I'm speaking of everybody in this room. Socrates is a relatively well-known thinker. He's one of ancient Greece's greatest minds. Yet, he's also a critic of one of ancient Greece's other claims to fame, democracy. Socrates argued that bad education was to be the great doom of democracy. And despite dying over 2,000 years ago, we can see many of his premonitions coming true today. Uneducated individuals can struggle to read in between the lines, differentiate the professional from the unprofessional, their best interest from their downfall. It can often feel in politics that there's one clear answer and everyone else is clowns parading on their fame. But without a proper education, it can be hard to tell who's who. In a well-educated world, that problem wouldn't exist. People would be able to understand the weight their decision holds and understand what option will provide the best life for themselves and their loved ones. Past 2 years, the entire world has been going through a pandemic. COVID has forced us to live in a way we probably wouldn't have needed to had it not started. Now, of course, we can romanticize all we want about a world where COVID didn't happen, but COVID-19 doesn't care what we want. All it wants to do is reproduce, and our bodies provide a perfect environment to do that. What we can and need to do is begin to prepare for the next pandemic-scale disease and crush it out as violently, as quickly as we possibly can, so that nobody in the future has to change the way they live just to avoid getting sick. Critical thinking plays a huge role in this, as it is the same self-proclaimed critical thinkers who are partially responsible for the length to which COVID has gone on for. Masking, vaccines, shutdowns all play a huge role in stopping a pathogen's ability to spread, and they are the same things that many self-proclaimed critical thinkers refuse to take part in. Now, that's not saying it's their intent to prolong the pandemic. COVID-19 isn't their fault. It's the fault of the education system, which failed to bring these people to a level where they understand how to help fight a disease to save themselves and their loved ones. Vaccines objectively work, and it is an absolute failure of the education system that anybody refuses to get one for any reason other than a health exemption. Arguments such as vaccines cause autism or vaccines cause infertility are based on horrifically inaccurate research, and yet they continue to be made. No longer do we have to fear smallpox. No longer do we have to fear polio, and no longer do we have to fear measles. But just because fear is gone does not mean the necessity is. People need to understand that these are true marvels of modern medicine, so that in the future, there are no diseases to fear. People have been going through much loss these past few years. Maybe somebody listening to this, maybe somebody in this room, we're going through a depressing time. But just because the times are depressing doesn't mean all hope is lost. It is on us to maintain hope and instead burning fire inside us to fight for a future we all can be proud of. Humans are one thing more than anything else, and that's adaptable. We need to take bad circumstances and throw them in the garbage, just like every other negative thing we've learned to live with. Now, what can be done? What possibly could be changed that would destroy rates of discrimination, allow people to fight for their own best interest, and stop future pandemics? Luckily, there are possibilities abundant. Here are a few things that would, in short order, begin to fix many of our problems. A great way to encourage deeper thinking at a younger age is more hands-on learning. Children are capable of drawing their own conclusions from simple activities, and they take away the necessary information far better than they would simply being told by an adult. It also encourages social discussion, it bolsters self-confidence, and it removes the common association between school and boredom. Another problem in schooling, which is often not talked about, is time. School takes 5 to 6 hours, 5 days a week, which is a huge time commitment for something that doesn't provide the results it should to justify said time commitment. A very simple solution would just be have school take up less time. We could teach our students the same amount of things that we are currently doing in 2 to 4 hours if we tried. So forcing them to come and spend hours of their lives doing something unnecessary is unreasonable. Another issue is when school starts. Because school starts far too early, especially for teenagers. The circadian rhythm in many teenage brains finds it very hard to focus early in the morning and gets way more active as night rolls in. This is why most teenagers find themselves to be exhausted throughout the day. And a very simple solution would to be just have it happen later. It's very easy. Combining a later start date with less time squandered throughout the day, students will immediately find they feel better about learning, are doing better while learning, and are taking home more of the important information. The final problem with the school system is an inability to fail a student. If somebody doesn't know what they need to continue in learning, why are they allowed to continue anyway? It's because we've become afraid of showing students failure, which is not without some warrant, mind you. There have been many studies which show that failure lowers a child's self-esteem. However, through previous reforms mentioned, that will be counteracted, and if nobody can fail, it creates problems such as Ontario's 48% functional literacy rate. It's clear that for humanity to reach its full potential, there is much that needs to be done. However, instead of viewing our salvation as one insurmountable task, we instead must view it in small, manageable chunks. Something we can do to begin a huge chain reaction is to fix our education system. Once everybody has the critical thinking skills required to understand how our world works and the problems present in it, fixing those problems becomes as easy as can be. So, for the sake of liberation and for the sake of utopia, please, go out and fight for it, so that we can be remembered as the ones who saved the world.